International speaker, entrepreneur and writer Richard Wright's newly released book, The Power of Purpose, is a naked of his personal journey to coming, the best version of himself. Now, this book highlights some of the key highlights in Richard's life: the birth of his children, taking part in Ironman South Africa, beating cancer more than once, and many other incredible life stories. Let's now welcome Richard into this conversation to tell us more about the book and some of the reasons that propelled him to share his story. He joins us now on Skype. Richard, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, and a very good morning to you too. Thank you.
I mean, your journey, as you shared it in this book, has been quite an extraordinary journey. What propelled you to go back, to sit down and then pen this book?
I was approached by my publisher, Trace McDonald, publishers, and she asked if I would, she heard about the story and asked if I would consider writing a book. It was a no-brainer. I tried about a year and a half before that to start a book and just hadn't got there. So that's what it was. It was just that somebody with deadlines, somebody to hold me to it.
I mean, you say that the journey you've shared in this book left you feeling naked and exposed, but strangely enough empowered. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I believe that when we open ourselves up and are truly vulnerable and authentic, we present the best version of ourselves, and somehow that's something that everybody else can relate to. So it was terrifying to have the book out there. When it first got to the shelves, it was really a terrifying moment to, wow, what are people going to think? I've really laid myself bare. The feedback's been absolutely tremendous, and I do firmly believe that when we are able to be raw and authentic, that people can resonate with us. And I think every single person who reads that book will take something from it, because it's just deeply human.
Okay. Now, Richard, let's talk about how you define purpose, and as well as your own journey in finding your own life's purpose, especially after finding out about your cancer.
So purpose, I think it's an interesting thing, and I think it's one of those things that we need to reframe as human beings. We think that purpose has to be this, I'm going to save the world, this amazing big thing, and it's not how it happens. I think anybody that we look at who represents massive purpose, I mean, that define themselves through purpose, it started with something little. So for me, it's that thing that makes you feel happy, that brings you joy, and makes you feel that you have some kind of meaning that is greater than yourself. That's how it is for me. And fighting the cancer was all about my two little girls. My greatest fear is leaving my girls without a dad. And just so determined to beat cancer and make sure that my girls didn't lose their dad.
And in your quest in finding purpose and sense of purpose, you become the seasoned athlete, and your journey has been incredible ever since. Take us through that and your life passion for taking part in Ironman South Africa.
So it was something I was really good at before the cancer. I've won my age group in a number of international Ironman events, won the age group event, top 20 overall, something I was really good at. And then when cancer came along, it took quite a while for me to stop being a victim and feeling like a victim. How can you not when you're told that you've got 6 months left to live? And then gradually it was kind of trying to find my own power. Where do I go to that place where I feel like I'm in control and beating the thoughts in my own head? And so if I could just even get out of the house and get around the block, it was I'm beating the thoughts in my head. So I decided that with stage 4 brain cancer, I was going to enter a full Ironman event, and crossing that finish line for the first time was the most empowering thing ever. There was a real sense of purpose. If I can do this, I can overcome and beat cancer. If I can do this, I'm proving to my two little girls that their dad. And so I embarked on a number over the last 4 years, a whole bunch of ultra endurance events, and every single one of them was an incredibly empowering thing. So I don't for a second think, if somebody gets cancer, say, okay, you need to go and enter an Ironman. That's not what it is. But where is that place where you feel like you are taking your control back? I think a lot of the time we give cancer too much power, we get angry, and at some point in time you've got to embrace it and say, this is what it is. Embrace your fate or love your fate, because you can't change it. But what are the things that you can change? And for me, it was changing the thoughts in my head.
Richard, I quite like your point that you just made there, that, you decided to stop being a victim. In fact, I was quite fascinated about how you detail some of the constant struggles in your head, that you say you had to fight in overcoming your brain cancer. Tell us more about those.
So we are what we think. And you go into the law of attraction states that whatever you think, you're going to attract more of into your life. So when we are victims, when we focus on the cancer, all we're doing is, our brain is a filtration system. We're filtering in and confirming. It's a confirmation bias. We're confirming what we're thinking, and we are blocking out everything we don't think. And so changing that is the first step, changing any behavior or our action. And so often we do it the wrong way around. We try to change the behavior and the action without changing how we think. That when we change how we think, everything flows from that. So for me, that was one of the biggest struggles, is trying to change how I was thinking and trying to use those thoughts to serve me instead of trip me up. And so there is a lot of that in the book. And even now, for those of you watching, you might be feeling like you are a victim of COVID-19, that you're a victim of coronavirus, even though hopefully you don't have it. And that's because this thing has so affected and disrupted our lives that we feel we are at mercy of this thing. And how do you change? And that's an important step to take, is acknowledging that we are feeling like we're a victim, and we can't control that stuff. So again, what is it that we can control? And we can control what we think.
Okay, let's talk about how you've spent about 4 years of your life doing extensive research about how the brain works and human behavior. Take us through that and why it was so important to you.
So that's an interesting question. Thank you. So it's something I was extremely fascinated with before. I was the national training manager for Golding Properties, and it's all about people and training and human behavior. It's something I've always been interested in. And then the brain cancer came along, and then it really made me understand how the brain functions. But more than that, how to control that, and how to control your thinking. So it really was a 4-year journey of trying to understand how my thinking and how my thoughts were impacting, and how I could change my thoughts within an event even. So, when you're in an Ironman, you've just done a 3.8 kilometer swim, a 180 kilometer cycle. Now you're busy with a 42.2 kilometer run, and full marathon. You're kilometer 17 and you still have so far to go. How do you control what you think? And if your thoughts go to, I'm in pain and I've got so far to go, and I'm cramping and I don't know how I'm going to do this, well, how do you change that? And so it really, in the book, you'll see a lot of ways of harnessing, a lot of mind hacks, try and figure out how we can harness the power that is our thinking. And so one example is one of the full Ironman races I did, stage 4 brain cancer. I finished in the top 10% of all the finishers, the 10-20 overall. And that wasn't, I say that in the book, it wasn't a physiological triumph at all. My body gave up at least halfway through the race. There was the sheer determination and willpower, how badly you want something. And that is what purpose is. When we have this idea, this thing that is greater than ourselves, we want it that badly, somehow we manage to get through all the negativity and those feelings and all the obstacles that hold us back because we want it so badly.
True, and especially taking it into cognizance that our stories are not the same, and we share similarities in how we think, and our thoughts are centered around finding meaning to life. Richard, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You really are an inspiration. Keep on inspiring us.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Well, that was, Richard Wright speaking to us about his latest book, The Power of Purpose, How to Obliterate Obstacles and Triumph Over Impossible Adversity. That's international speaker Richard Wright.